Mihoyo needs to stop adding weekly bosses. At least until they can fix the resin issue. Now, I don't mind weekly bosses. I don't mind them adding new stuff in. I don't mind them adding new bosses in there. But the problem is, I'm always having this problem because I don't do no refills. I barely use my virtual resin. I like to stockpile that. Unless you are a whale, or at least spend at least some money on the game, you probably won't have this issue as much. But the biggest problem is once the week starts over, you have, if you want to do these weekly bosses, you have to use your resin for them. And as of right now, every weekly boss is 60 resin. There's 3 of them, so that's 180 resin, and that's less than what we get in a day. Now, I usually do the weekly bosses the second the week starts over again. Which for me, it's like 5 a.m. where I live. I do 2 bosses real quick, and then I go to bed for the night, and then I let the resin pile up as I go to bed so I can do the next boss. But as they add more bosses, because there's been speculation that there'll be another weekly boss in 1.5, that's 4 weekly bosses. And let's say by 1.8 or 7 or whatever, there's like 2 more. That's like 360 resin-ish. That's a lot of resin to do weekly bosses. Now, you technically don't have to do the weekly bosses, but it's recommended because you never know when cultural talents are going to be. It's always good to do these weekly bosses, so if there's a character you really want to level up and you've been doing that boss it needs for, let's say, 10 weeks, you have 10 weeks worth of stuff to use on that boss. And even though it's little RNG what you might get, normally you will get that stuff every couple of weeks. You will get something, or get lucky, maybe get double of that. But the problem stems with there's just not enough resin, and resin will fill so slowly that basically you can't use that resin for talent books, maybe, because some talents are on Mondays. Can't use it to grind artifacts. Maybe you're off on a day like I am, have no work or something, and you want to grind for artifacts. Well, you use all your resin, unless you got condensed resin saved up. You got no luck on that part. It's just they need to fix this resin thing, or at least, which is what a lot of people agree we should do, which I agree this should be perfect because they're weekly bosses. You only do them once a week. You can't do no more after that. Once you do them that week, you can fight them again, but you can't collect the rewards for it. What a lot of people suggest we should do is just make them have no resin cost, which I agree with. Yeah, I don't know if Mihoyo will ever do that because that's something we don't pay resin for. But unlike doing it for like a wedge vine or that geo creature we got, or the mystical cubes, you know, the electric cube and then the animal cube and all that, geo cube, which is stuff that you could do multiple times a day. Continuously, I've done, you know, 10 or 20 times in one day if I've used fractal resin a lot for it. I think they should get rid of the resin for that. You know, make it just not cost anything, because it won't be a big issue. It's only once a week. Now, it might be a big issue if they add more and more weekly bosses, and then it starts getting to 6 or 7 or even 8 weekly bosses. They may have some issue with it then, because that's a lot of stuff, you know, players can do, I guess, for no resin cost. But at the same time, it's a weekly boss. You can only do it once a week. You can't do it no more than that. And there was even talk about the Abyss Hero being an eventual weekly boss. Now, we assume that 1.5 boss is not the Abyss Hero. If the leaks are true, that's not the Abyss Hero, and let's say 1.6 it's the Abyss Hero or something like that, then that's, you know, like 6 bosses basically. 5 weekly bosses. So overall, they should probably just cut out the resin cap for it. Or give us more resin. Players want more resin. It's hard to go back to 120 resin now, because it's, when you look back at back then, when you only had 120 resin, you just like, man, that's not a lot. And we do take 160 resin for granted, but I would like to see more resin be used, or, you know, like 200. Having 200 resin would be phenomenal. That's a lot to do, especially if you do domains. That's literally like 10 legendary artifacts. 10 legendary artifacts. It is quicker because it got condensed resin, but if you want to prolong it, you can do it without using condensed resin. But I mean, you would have to fight something like in the quiet domain, fight those guys like 3 times or 10 times. Where you can fight 5 times for, you know, the same amount of awards basically. Double the awards, I should say. Overall, everybody say, and I love this game to death, don't get me wrong. I am complaining about it, and I will probably do more story content as it need arises for this game. Because I like doing speculation in this game. But there is an issue, and I'm a much more casual player with it. So I don't really do a whole lot. I'll use my resin. Sometimes I'll do a domain. A lot of times I'll keep it condensed, and then I'll use the resin nail, and then I'll refill it up the same amount, and I could do like 9 or 10 ones, like back to back of condensed resin ones. And that works. That works just fine. For people who do refills all the time, that do the max amount of refills all the time, or maybe use fragile resin all the time, then doing it with weekly bosses is probably ain't much of an issue. But at the same time though, it's 180 resin. So obviously if you use your original resin, you're going to be able to use 120 of it, then you have to refill, and that puts you to 40 after you do the final one, and then you have to refill some more, and it just wastes your refills that you could be using on something more productive. And you could just be the argument like, oh, you're going to skip it though, you don't have to do the weekly bosses. You're right, you don't have to do them at all, you can skip them all you want. But I did that one time, because I decided to skip the wolf boss because I was like, I don't need a wolf boss. Like, come on. I don't need it at all. I think I stopped because I reached battle pass level 50 and I don't level up anymore because I'm at level 50. So I thought to skip in the wolf boss because I was like, there's no point. It's not going to give me no experience. Well, not thinking properly, realized that I needed those materials for Kaching, and now I don't have those materials. I don't use Kaching anymore, so it's no big deal. I have it, but I don't use it anymore since I got a couple other characters that I find useful, especially Mihoyo, which is a really good character. But I didn't do it, and when I wanted to actually level up my talents, I didn't have the tail, I think it was, or something like that. The tail I needed to level up some of her talents. So then I just kind of like, crap, and I can't just farm it because it could be done once a week. Did it one time, and after that I had to wait till next week. Overall, they need to fix this resin issue majorly. I would be fine with just 200 at least, but as they add more weekly bosses, and a lot of those bosses you might need, there could be a time that a character might need those talent materials. Like a character that you don't have, but you might want that character eventually. Like, it's 1.4, maybe there's a character in 1.7 that comes out, you know, and you've been grinding this one weekly boss for literal months, like 3 months, just going through every time, and you got this character super overpowered that you just love, and you got her, him, whoever it is, and let's say you got 20 of the materials, the talent materials this character needs. Probably not going to be 20, but let's just say you got 20. Because you just got lucky, and you've been doing it all the way since 1.5 or something, or even 1.4. And you have plenty more, and now you have enough to level up, like maybe 2 talents up to level 10. Probably 3, maybe. Maybe you have enough more for 3, and enough books. Even though this person, even though you didn't have the character needed for that boss, you still grind that boss, and now it pays off because you have the proper character for that boss. So now you're doing more damage because your character's talents are leveled up more. So it comes in handy, even if you don't have the proper character, the boss still needs to be defeated, I guess you could say. Still need to fight it, that way if you do have that character come out, then you're good to go. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments before. On both ends, they should increase it at least to 200, and secondly, they should get the resin cap off it though, because there's no need to pay resin for something you're going to do once a week. They did kind of go the right direction with resin by increasing it originally and making the events non-resin related, which, you know, was even more terrible because you had to spend resin on doing these events, and it just wasted time you had to grind. I probably could have gotten some better stuff if I had time to use that resin to grind, especially when it was back on like 120 resin and something like that, you know, and then you had to like use stuff for events even. It was a tough time back then. We really look back, it was a tough time. Well, let me know what you guys are going to think in the comments what you think they should do. I think they should at least increase it anyway, make it 200, and then they should at least get off the resin for that, because there's no use. But at the same time though, what they probably would do is, because it does give you eventual rank XP, and they could easily could be like, well, since you're not paying no resin, there's no point getting the XP for it. And then now when you fight it, you get the materials, but you don't get 300 XP, which, if you fight all the bosses, that's 900. And yeah, that's not a whole lot. But, I mean, 900 every week, 4 weeks, that's 2700. So, that helps. I think that's short. No, that's like 3600. My bad. I think that's like 3600. But still, that's a lot to help. 3600 may not seem a big significant amount, especially with AR-55, but it does help out with it a little more. So if you didn't have that 3600, that's like 4 or 5 more days of daily commissions. But you already have all the XP from those weekly bosses, so now you don't have to do those daily commissions, because at least you don't need to do it to more to get to where you need to be, you know. So I've been on long enough though. I hope you guys enjoy this. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye bye.
I will have order. Stabilize. Shouldn't let your guard down.
Cross over.
Gather. I will have order.
Take eyes on me. See?